Good morning, Jake. Good morning, Storm. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good, bud. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
What is that hat you're wearing?
It's Modest and Son, and it's a distillery out down in Texas. A buddy of mine owns. So
okay,
yeah,
nice.
Make some single malt whiskey and vodka. It's good stuff.
Nice.
Good times.
Anyways, welcome to episode 74 of the Coffee Squad podcast. Today we are joined with Storm, and we are going to be discussing threat intelligence, which is going to be probably way above my comprehension, but maybe Jake, you'll be understand because you did work some intelligence.
I did work it. I was probably trying to find my intelligence, but yes, that guy we got Storm on here to tell us about threat intelligence and kind of what he does and how he does it. So, and what a cool name, honestly.
Hey, thank you.
What a cool name to do threat intelligence. I think it's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. So the background for the name is it's apparently a fairly common name out in Norway, and my grandfather came over from there, so that's how that got into the family. But hey, I've also got a challenge to pretty much everyone I meet is if you can tell me a joke that I haven't heard before, I owe you a drink at a bar somewhere. So, you can put your thinking cap on. Try to find one that I haven't heard yet. So.
Storm, you're trying to get me in trouble, man. Every joke I know.
No. I'm
super not.
Super.
All right. Oh, Buckaroo Banzai, man. I haven't heard that in years.
Oh, damn. You know this. All right.
Oh, yeah. My mom was a big fan of Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So tell me, what is it? Because I have no clue.
All right. Yeah. Buckaroo Banzai is it basically probably the best way to think about it is imagine watching one Marvel movie somewhere in the middle. But that's kind of the joke of the movie. Yeah. So like you've got all these characters, there's all this background, you got the main character himself, Buckaroo Banzai, is a neuroscientist, a rock star, a test car pilot, a advisor to the president. He's the everyman, does everything.
It's all the comic book movies ever wrapped up into one as a spoof, kind of,
and done completely dry humor wise. It's a blast to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I can check it out. I mean,
you won't, but
no, seriously, I've turned a new leaf. So in Tahoe, I was stuck in a car with I don't want to call them nerds because that's not really nice, but a bunch of Star Wars nerds. And they were crushing me because my boys, I have an 8, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. 4-year-old's a little young, but they want to watch Star Wars. And I'm like, Dad doesn't watch that stuff, guys. My wife loves it, and I've never watched Star Wars.
Never.
Wow.
So see what I'm dealing with here? I mean,
yeah, I know.
So I made a commitment to him that I'd start watching Star Wars and the sci-fi stuff because my kids like it. So I'm trying to be a good dad. But yeah, so I will write that down and I will watch it over the next month. And Storm, I will let you know. I hit you up on LinkedIn, so I will let you know. And that's a promise I do. If not, next time I'm up your way, I'll buy you a drink.
All right. Okay. That sounds good. That sounds good.
All right, so let's hop into it a little bit. So Storm is the director of threat intelligence at Safeguard Cyber, where he runs intelligence, supporting efforts in sales, marketing, and product development. He previously worked at Eyesight Partners, FireEye, and built the analyst service team at Recorded Future. He is highly experienced in crafting and supporting custom intelligent products tailored to client needs. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. I think that's me.
Cool. All right, so anything else I missed out or anything?
No, I mean, like, as far as, I guess I could talk a little bit more about like further in my background if you wanted to go there.
Sure.
But yeah, so went to a college in Virginia that actually had an Intel program, and me being the smart person that I was, I didn't go into it. I went to the international stuff. So Patrick Henry College, if you've ever heard of that one. And then the Institute of World Politics is where I did grad school, which they're one of those best kept secrets in DC. And I was part of their national security and what was my specialization? It was, I always say propaganda because that's easier, but it was public diplomacy and political warfare, aka propaganda. And yeah, I was trying for the longest time to get into like an agency or something, but housing crisis of 2009 wasn't exactly a great time to get a job. So I eventually got into the cybersecurity stuff. So it's been a blast ever since.
That's awesome. Honestly,
sounds a little bit like PsyOps, what he went to school for.
Yeah, actually, yeah. There, one of the fellows that we had at IWP was part of the Army's 4th PSYOP, back when it was still called that.
Yeah.
Before they became MISO.
Yeah. So I used to work with all those guys. They employed with us.
I'm having some bad jokes and that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I honestly think like the PSYOP or MISO now, military information, is huge, and we just don't use it very well.
Yeah.
I think our news media uses it much better than our own military does. So, yeah, but
what are you drinking today,
I
Jake?
talk about politics, so and But yes, really interesting, man. Awesome. What am I drinking, man? So I'm drinking, you can't even see it.
Can't see it, yeah.
Like green screen with a green background. Anyways, Blackfish 5 Rebound, like a BCA blend. So after workout, so I did a little paddle this morning. Nice and early. Because it's supposed to get like 100 degrees here today. And then, of course, another green cup. But definitely a cool sticker.
I think you do it on purpose.
Yeah.
I really don't, man. I just grab what's there and available. Yeah. So anyways, just some water. So there's a BCA. So a great little post-workout drink. So.
What about you, Storm? What are you drinking this morning?
I got in
your Buckeye Bonzi.
Yeah, in my Buckaroo Bonsai mug. Yeah, I've got a dark roast from Mods. First time trying it. Actually really nice. So
nice. Is Mods like a small coffee? I'm not a coffee drinker. So
oh yeah, it's so their thing is, at least the way I found them, is they make like a good variety of like decent decaf blends. And I drink enough cups of coffee that if I did full calf, I'd start vibrating on a different frequency and pass through walls.
Yeah, Black Rifle does a CAF, and it's like extra caffeinated, and I can't drink that because I enjoy 3 to 5 cups of coffee, and if I have more than one of those, I'm like a hummingbird. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Do that again, Will.
What's like a hummingbird?
Come on, come on, do the hummingbird for a song. There we go. Nice. I want 2 dragons. So, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Liberty blend from Black Rifle Coffee, my typical go-to medium roast. But I also got this new sparkling water. It is a fruit punch by Refreshingly Ugly. So I thought maybe you were getting into the water business, Jake. Probably can't see it because it's blue. So
why would I get in it? Because it's called Refreshingly Ugly?
Yeah. It's like it's not really it's not a super compliment, but it's not really an insult either.
Because I'm really good at being ugly.
You're refreshingly ugly.
I like that.
All right.
Now you've definitely insulted me multiple times already in the first. How long have we been on the show? 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 54 seconds here. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Game on. So, yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and move into the topic of the day with threat intelligence. So Storm, can you explain exactly what threat intelligence is to someone like me who doesn't really understand it?
Yeah, sure. And so I guess probably one of the best places to kind of start on this, kind of give a basic definition, and there are tons of definitions out there. I've got my own for this stuff. But threat intelligence, at the end of the day, there are 2 components to it. So you want to make an assessment on an unknown threat of some sort, and you want to make sure that it's actionable. It sounds very simple. It's like, okay, assessment on threat and actionable. So you have to be able to make a course of action on it. But it actually gets a little hard when you start really digging into it, because first off, you're trying to, all right, like for example, cyber threat intelligence, you're trying to make assessments on, okay, is this this actor, are they sophisticated, are they not? Could they possibly compromise one of our clients' systems? And there's a lot of unknowns there. So I don't know all of my clients, how they're set up defense wise. I know parts of it, but not all of it. And then I as far as an actor goes, the only thing that is what people are putting out in the news media, or if one of your clients gets hit, you get some of that attack data. So you're trying to piece together based on that. Okay, do you think this guy is sophisticated? What tools are they using? What's the best way to would there be a good way to recommend to your client okay, this is how you should defend against them if we think they're going to attack you? And even that first question is like, do we think they're going to attack you? That's a big one, because there are millions and millions of companies out there, so millions of different targets. And if every client out there said, okay, I need to be protected against all of them all of the time, you wouldn't be able to put enough energy and effort into really doing that. There's not enough people in the world to say, okay, we need to map out every actor out there, every campaign, and then figure out how to defend against all of them. So intelligence basically helps you by giving you targets. So, okay, this group over here, let's say I'm a healthcare company. This group over here is primarily targeting financials right now. So they're not a top priority. But meanwhile, this company over here has been targeting healthcare industry recently. And so that means they're either probably going to target me or they maybe already have. So at that point, I need to start taking information from that, figuring out, okay, what's the best way to defend against those guys? And then if they have already hit me, where are some indicators that I could go through in my network to start hunting for that information to see if, basically to uncover if they're in there already.
I like it. It sounds a lot like targeting.
It is. Yeah. And there are two types of and when you talk about targeting, there are two major types of intel. So there's the tactical stuff, which I'm assuming is probably the stuff you're the most familiar with, which is on the field. That's okay. This guy is in this position right now, and I got a guy over here with a gun. Cool. We can solve that problem. And then you've got the more strategic stuff, which things get really interesting when you get into strategic. So there you're looking at, what does the entire landscape look like? What threats are out there? What are the things that I could do as a company, not to defend against a single attack, but to reduce my overall risk? So, if, for example, cloud attacks, trending upward right now, and as a company, I depend a lot on cloud infrastructure. Okay, what are things that I can do to defend against that threat area in general, rather than just an individual attack campaign? So,
wow,
I think it's awesome, man. I guess as you talk about this, you mentioned healthcare, and we've talked a little bit about cybersecurity and some things out there on the podcast before. But specifically, as this is kind of like your bread and butter, why is threat intelligence important? I know that's a really broad, super, super broad. So I guess when you talk about your clients, what types of industries are we talking about here?
There's a little bit of a history lesson of that one too, because there are the early adopters for threat intelligence, and then it's pretty much any company out there. If you've got assets online, threat intelligence can help you. Early on, though, it was the banks. The folks had the most to lose. So the banks, healthcare. We can now see, some of the. It took a little while for energy and production and manufacturing to get involved in it, but they're starting to get more involved in it now because they've been getting hit a lot more recently. But then you want to talk about like stuff that's on the, like, oh, you didn't want to think of that. Like, law firms are a big one that they're all starting to get involved in it now because when they get popped, that's a lot of sensitive paperwork that can get leaked online, and that gets really rough if that gets out there. So pretty much anyone or any business that's out there, they can if they're online, they have a security posture of some sort. Okay, intelligence can help them. But the real hard thing is, okay, how do I use intelligence? I'm not a sales guy, but I've gotten on plenty of sales calls. So I've talked to prospects who are just like, okay, yeah, that's a box we have to check, is that we need cyber threat intel. And actually back in the eyesight days, where private sector cyber threat intel was just becoming a thing, it was interesting just trying to convince people that, okay, this actually is good for you. And some people just bought it because, okay, that sounds sexy at the end of the day. It's like an intelligence. It's like an agency. Oh yeah. I like James Bond. We'll get some of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. I'm a cyber James Bond. No, I'm not. No, I am not. I'm more of like a cyber James or a George Smiley. But the big thing is, and it goes back to that definition I quoted at the beginning. assessments on the unknown that are actionable. A lot of people early on would ask for, okay, hey, there's this event that happened in the news. What else can you tell me? Which is, as an intelligence question, that is a horrible one to ask. And we got asked that stuff a lot, especially when I was back at iSight. It was, Sony pictures just got popped. What can you tell me? Or pretty much anything else. Like a Target got popped. What can you tell me about that? And in some cases, sure, yeah, we had some interesting stuff. But if you ask that questions, all right, okay, what do you want to know at the end of the day? What's going to help you act? Just asking, what can you tell me? I mean, I can tell you more about the actor. I can tell you about the malware. I can tell you about the entry method that they use to get in there, but what's going to help you out the most? So a company that understands threat intelligence and understands how to utilize it, basically it becomes a force multiplier because it helps you target and figure out what you need to care about the most. So you've got limited resources, limited time to do things. Threat intelligence can help you, if you're using it right, to say, okay, I've got 5 guys and I got 500,000 different things they could be doing right now. I need to narrow that down to like 5 or 6. So threat intelligence can say, all right, here's the landscape and here are the major threats. Or, okay, yeah, there's this event and you want to know whether it's relevant to your company or not. Okay, we can help you through with that. And sometimes that intelligence ends up being, especially, so like one of the first desks that I worked on was hacktivism, where 9 out of 10 actors that I reviewed were basically worthless. That 10th one always, was the wild card. But half the time I would write reports and it's like, yeah, this guy does not have skill. You should not waste cycles on it. And that's actually valuable intelligence at the end of the day, because that's one less thing that your guys have to worry about, so they can actually focus on things that are more important at the end of the day.
We're going to save time and money.
Exactly.
I still, so we have a small little fusion team that we work with that does, I guess, publicly available information, right? Using the cyber landscape that people are willing to put out there. And sometimes, certain analysts, threat analysts out there, I have nothing to report. And I'm like, but you don't understand. That nothing significant to report is an intelligence product, right? Because it's saying, hey, you don't need to focus here. Move your focus somewhere else. And so exactly. I think, customers at times have actually been like, well, what do you mean there's nothing? Well, I can't, if you want me to make something up, I can't make something up to make you feel good, nor do you want that. So I think that's a really important aspect of the intelligence cycle of sometimes, if you're looking somewhere, and you may not find it. So move that focus somewhere else, and you're going to save time, energy, and money.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you kind of do that? I mean, how do you conduct a threat intelligence assessment? I mean, do you just, this is way beyond me.
That's a good question. So I'll go back. So I mentioned I worked on a hacktivism desk, and what we did there was we just found things and wrote reports on it. I later moved from that to doing kind of RFIs for clients, so they would reach out. And that actually is a lot easier. So if you're just writing reports for the sake of writing reports, you kind of have to say, all right, what's my client base? What are the things that they're going to care about in general? What are the big threats? But what's easier, and I mean, what I've been doing basically for the last 6-7 years or something, has been doing the client specific stuff. So the first thing that you do when you're doing an intelligence assessment, and this is the way that most folks would be doing it, is you talk to your client, and that client is, sometimes an actual client, sometimes it's just, the client is that executive who's asking the question, and you scope it out with them. So, what I will do whenever I get a request, and sometimes I still get those requests, like, hey, this, Accenture just got popped. What can you tell me about that? First thing I'll do is get on the phone, say, all right, who's the audience for this? Who's asking the question at the end of the day? Because you write things very differently for a C-level executive as opposed to some guy who's in the SOC. That C-level executive, he's going to want to know top level strategic. Should I worry about this or not? Tell me in a page or less. Meanwhile, those guys in the SOC, they're going to be more concerned about, okay, technical details, how the attack happened, and even quicker, just give me a list of indicators that I can go hunt for and search for if this is, an issue. So you start with that question. And then the next one is, okay, can you tell me more context around it? So you're trying to get some background information as to why they're concerned about this event. Have they seen something similar to it? Were they partners with the guys that got hit originally? And you've got an NDA in place, so you don't talk about, like, this stuff never becomes public. So you get that level of trust, you get more of their background. And even if it's just background as to why that executive may have asked the intel guys at that company for that report, it gives you that context there. And then finally, and the big question is, okay, how is this report going to be actionable for you? What information can I give you so that, effectively you can shoot rounds down range? So you understand where the target is. And sometimes, if that's the tactical, it's okay, here's that exact campaign. Here's how you defend against them. And if it's more strategic, if it's like, they need for example, one question that we could get is, we've got a budget meeting coming up and we got to figure out who we're going to hire this next year. All right, where are our big threats? Tell us what the landscape looks like so that we can do a risk assessment internally and figure out where our gaps are and, hire security professionals to fill those, or, buy certain products to fill those gaps. So understanding that, what the client wants at the end of the day. If you wanted to boil it down to really simple language, it's, what's going to help them do what's right at the end of the day. And that's the where you start on making an assessment. To go further into it, you get into that whole, making assessments about the unknown. So, you've got that actor out there. And we'll take example, like an old hacktivist actor. And somebody who just wants to know if, for example, let's take a hacktivist actor who's been targeting healthcare industry, or maybe not healthcare, like production and manufacturing companies. And we'll say this client is worried that they might hit them as well. All right, first big question is, are these guys actually sophisticated? Do they pose any threat at all? So you're online trying to make an assessment about, okay, do we think that they're sophisticated? Do we think that they've got the capability to do any damage if they decided to target you? Because at this point, we already know, okay, they're targeting people in your industry. Okay, so you're on the target list. So you start making assessments on, okay, what tools do they have? Have they been successful in previous attacks? Let's see, do they have, participatory stuff isn't as big as it used to be. But one of the things I used to run through a lot were, do they have a command over their chat rooms that they're in so that they can move people towards attacking one thing or another? Because a lot of that stuff is kind of crowdsourced. So you put all that stuff together and then you make an assessment. So, Safeguard Cyber assesses with low, medium, high confidence that this actor poses a threat to your company or doesn't pose a threat to your company. And it's something you should worry about or not. And that's kind of how you build up a basic assessment. And that's for actor sophistication. There's all sorts of other things you can make assessments on.
Sounds a lot like a physical assessment that we do. So
yeah, actually,
just we talked about convergence last week, and we've talked multiple times about cybersecurity and physical security. How the principles are pretty much the exact same. It's just different, different technologies.
Yeah.
Different forms. So threat actors that you're seeing, before I took like a cybersecurity course, I was always thinking, kind of what you see in the movies. It's funny how like television and movies plays a certain role, and that's what you envision, right?
Right.
So, the overweight person sitting in their mom's basement, eating Cheetos, drinking Mountain Dew all day and Monsters. Kind of sounds like my life right now. But that's what I pictured. And then I took that cybersecurity course last year. I realized a lot of it's state actors, and not just state actors, but criminal organizations. Those criminal organizations are getting more and more involved because they see the payouts are getting higher and higher and higher. So what are you seeing since you're in this world day in and day out? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So that transition from the guy in the basement with the hoodie on and all that stuff. I mean, that kind of existed a little bit. It was actually there was a fair bit of that in the hacktivist movements, probably about like 7 years ago or so. But that was more an imitation of the art of what a hacker, like, basically taking a lot of. And it was really fun too, because they'd model their posts and stuff like that after either movies or books that had dramatized what
Mr. Robot.
Yeah, or at that point it was more like hackers and Neuromancer and some of the old school stuff. But yeah, so that stuff existed, but it was more art, life reflecting art, I think. But nowadays, and there are a bunch of folks who have written about this, the corporatization, I guess you might call, of cyber malicious cybersecurity actors. How would I say this? Cyber attacks at the end of the day. The corporatization of hackers. I guess that's probably a good way of putting it. So what that has become is, people have said, that it used to be a little bit more like the Wild West. Somebody individually would sit down at a computer, not with a hoodie and all that other stuff, but sit down at a computer, figure out how to break into something, and then maybe get some money out of it. That was kind of the thing. And then that grew over time to, oh wait, this can be a business model. And so you'll see groups out there. I guess the way it evolved was, it went from individuals, then you had the forums where people collaborated, then the forums became marketplaces. So, for example, if I was a criminal actor and I just popped a database worth of hundreds of credit card accounts, or thousands of credit card accounts, and I got all the numbers, CVs, and all that stuff, I would not be the person to go exploit that. I would try to sell that on an underground forum, and then somebody else would grab that. They would figure out a way to exploit it, and then they'd probably even have an in-between there to like get the money out, so a mule of some sort. So, what would have been back in the day is, some kid, getting someone's credit, account credentials, wiping their bank account and running away with the money, is now a 4-step process. And 4 different people are involved in different steps. And it's got even further past that, where there are now groups that have, customer support for their, if you sign up for certain, like, oh, I want to run a, this ransomware campaign over here. I can be what's the word for it? A subsidiary of it, and work through that model. Or I can rent the code from you guys, and I'll send it through here. I'll infect a machine. You'll get the money out. You'll run the rest of the campaign, and I'll get some money out of that. There are chatbots set up, actual live people who will help you with, oh, you're trying to install this on somebody. Oh, well, have you tried this method to, like, you've got that whole line of service now. And a lot of these people who are doing it now, they're 9 to 5, wake up.
Yep. That's their job.
Try to do stuff. Shut down the computer at the end of the night. Figure, okay, cool, I'll try it again tomorrow. And if you're living in somewhere like, somewhere Eastern Europe, Russia, as long as you're not targeting folks inside your country, generally they don't care. So, a lot of those guys are actually pretty open about it. And a lot of them have, using their own names, have actually, done interviews with people. Which is, you think about that, that's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's kind of what the actor landscape looks like now.
Well, I think the laws and the prosecution still has to catch up to the advancement of the technology that we've created. Okay. So we're always behind on that. Security and enforcement of it always seems to be behind.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at cryptocurrency, the new bill that just got passed, they're trying to, like, how do they protect? How do they use, make laws for cryptocurrency? And the cryptocurrency's been out a long time, and we're still trying to make laws to catch up to it. So, Yeah, interesting. I think it's super, super interesting what you do, Storm. I absolutely think it's awesome. On your guys' Safeguard Cyber website, for our viewers and listeners out there, definitely go take a look at it. They have a Connection is Life video. I think it's like 1 minute, 30 seconds long. But basically, I'll sum it up real quick. It's how interconnected our life is in the cyber and the digital world today. Everyone for the most part is carrying around a smartphone connected to Amazon, your Netflix, Apple TV, whatever it is. Everything is so interconnected. And if you think of a business, how everything is so connected to the web. So I think a great little video, again, for our viewers, listeners out there, check out safeguardcyber.com, their little video, and kind of gives you a good little understanding of what Storm does and how he helps protect companies and individuals.
Have you come across any unique threats or anything that's kind of funny, like, I don't know, just something surprising
that you can talk about?
Yeah, that you can talk about. Yeah.
I'll give you a historic one, and I'll give you something a bit more recent. So historically, going way back here, one of the big things I used to do and used to track was participatory DDoS attacks, which DDoS attacks, they're kind of out of phase right now because the technology for mitigating them has caught up and gone further than what the capability for conducting those attacks is. And for those of you on listeners, DDoS, distributed denial of service, or basically sending enough traffic through the lines that you can take a site offline or take a service offline. It was really
I'm glad you explained that. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really impactful. I want to say back in there was an event in 2012 where they took down Visa and MasterCard for a day or something like that, which for those guys, that's millions of dollars worth of revenue lost. So it can be really impactful. But so what I used to track was the hacktivist actors. So they weren't building their own botnets of infected machines that could send traffic. Their big thing was, all right, I need to convince and motivate a bunch of people to do what I'm telling them to do. To install there are these two tools that are basically worthless nowadays. They were called the high orbit ion cannon and the low orbit ion cannon, or HOIC and LOIC. And basically all you had to do is you put in a IP address in this very tiny little GUI, and there's a button at the bottom that just said, "I'm a firing my laser," and so you popped in the target IP address, hit fire in my laser, and it would just send tons of traffic. Pretty basic, but if you had enough people doing that at once, you could take a site down. So and this kind of goes into one of the ways I found my education helped me out, because I did the whole propaganda side of things. Is that was a huge element for how those attacks actually worked. Is you had to have a message that was powerful enough, and you had to convince people online that this was a cause worthy enough of going into. And then once you got people there, you had to make sure that those tools were easy enough for people to download, and that you got them into a chat room so that you could very quickly move the target from one to the other. And then you had to keep control of that room, because as soon as you post oh, hey, we're going to start, we're going to do our campaign, you'll get a bunch of other people who jump into your chat room and say, oh, we're going to target this now. And if you hadn't established that you were the guy running things, people would take your group and just target somebody's Zanga or other random crap. So that was a really interesting sort of event or epoch of cybersecurity, is back when that stuff used to be viable. Really interesting stuff. And then to something a bit more recent. So we do a lot more security along the lines of communication and collaboration apps, so Zoom, Slack, Teams, as well as DMs and LinkedIn. And one of our clients recently, I'll keep all that stuff, names and stuff, quiet. But one of our clients recently, he received a message that we caught, and the message was kind of a little bit more of a spear phishing than just phishing message. And it was targeting cybersecurity executives with a an exciting new opportunity to invest in some business. And it was a longer message too, so it wasn't just your run of the mill thing. The link that was in there took you to a legitimate site, and it was a Adobe Sparks document hosting site. So you go there, and then from there you get to, okay, this document says, hey, if you want to learn more about it, go to this link, and then that would get you somewhere else. So, and then that site had basically it was a skimming page. So they would say, oh, hey, enter, and I don't know if this was stupid or brilliant, but they said, enter any email credentials you want, and we'll get you the document. No document hosting provider works like that, but yeah, okay. I don't know if anyone got fooled by that one. But the really interesting thing about that attack, and it's not something necessarily novel, was the whole, okay, we're going to one location and then we're going to move to another one, because it got past, we caught it due to the social engineering language that was in the message, but it got past our link analysis, because we look at the first link, and that first link was actually perfectly benign. Adobe Sparks page, just a document, nothing bad there, nothing bad happened when we executed it. It was good. So it's just like the little things like that, where it's like you put in file analysis and then they figure out a way to move past that, or you put in link analysis and they figure out, okay, we just got to go one step further out, and then they can't catch us.
So I used to work in law enforcement on criminal interdiction, and it seems like it was a game of cat and mouse. We'd figure out how to beat them, then they change their techniques up, and we figure out how to beat them, then they figure out how. It's one upping each other over and over again. It seems like, yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So you just you got to keep adapting, keep checking stuff. Actually, like I said, the way we caught that wasn't through the link analysis; it was the social engineering language. So that's the way we're catching that stuff now.
So Storm, once you catch her, when you say catch, are you catching the threat, and then are you also taking that another step further and handing that over to law enforcement to prosecute, or are you just, hey, here's a threat to the client, here's how you protect yourself, and kind of move on?
Yeah. So most of the time, what we're doing is we're catching the threat, either blocking or alerting the client to that threat. And most of the time, that's kind of where that stops. Now, if we've got some sort of unique access into that, or if we found something that is, like we do need to bring that to law enforcement, we will. But as far as general phishing messages, it's like, okay, this guy maybe lives out in India or Russia or something like that. I can't do too much there. And that's if you can trace it all the way back, which once again, we're talking about the ways, the cat and mouse game. You find one way to, like, okay, we can get to them through their domains that they registered. Okay, now they've figured out a way to block that. Okay, maybe we can get it through. No, they figured out a way. So it gets real messy when you try to ID people.
Tough. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, can't you just trace IP address and trace it back? Like, there's so much legal mumbo jumbo, and it's so tough to do cyber attribution, in my opinion, to actually get like an accurate hit on that. So,
for example, one of the things you used to be able to do is you used to be able to do a who is, which is basically you're looking up the registration information for a website, and you used to be able to see who registered that.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are so many services that allow you to block it, or basically you can block just being the registrant, and they just send you to their oh, hey, if you want to find out more about this, GoDaddy.com. It's like, oh, that wasn't the guy who registered this.
Mm-hmm.
So
So what are some tips and tricks you could give? There's a basic cyber security trick. Most large companies, I know, their CISOs and their IT department kind of put out, what are some things that you see that, hey, just don't do this?
Don't click on links. Quite honestly. So
Will, you hear that?
Yeah, that's Ray's favorite saying right there. Ray's expression.
Yep. Don't click on links. That's sounds basic, but how much stuff gets through that way? The FBI comes out with a report every year saying how much each cyber attack type has done in damage, or at least that's one of the parts of their review. And for the last several years, things like phishing or business email compromise, which is another form of spear phishing, those types of events have been, as far as damage goes, miles above everything else, except maybe ransomware, just because people don't disclose if they paid the ransom or how much they paid most of the time. So that is, and even then, half of the ransomware stuff gets through initially because somebody clicked on a link. So you talk about what's I think you guys may have mentioned this last week on your podcast, but the most vulnerable part of any security any security system is the human at the end of the day. And same thing goes with your cybersecurity system. That's the humans are the weakest link. And that's some of the best stuff you can do there is figure out how to protect the human interaction at the end of the day, because that's how do you monitor and protect the human interaction from your guys talking outside of your company, and even sometimes talking inside the company, because if someone gets in and starts talking around, you can get hit that way as well. But yeah, figure out how to do that, as well as educating your employees, not just on don't click on a link, because people take that and it's like, okay, yeah, it's cool, good, and then they go click on links. But you generally want to talk to them about things that are relevant. So it's like, oh, hey, this company is also in healthcare, and here's what the lure looked like. This is how they tried to get them to click on it. And try to doing trainings like that, probably like once a month, just simple, like, hey, 10 minutes. Here are things that we saw recently that were targeting people in our industry. Just want you to take a look at them, just so you guys know that, hey, these are, this is what these attacks look like live right now. I feel like that'd be a good one to try to roll out.
Yeah, realistic training is always what I try to tell all my clients. Like, you can do stuff from 20, 30 years ago. I know the DoD is antiquated training that really you just click through as fast as you can, because it seems so irrelevant to today. And so I think that's a great point, is realistic. How's it affect you, or how does it affect the business that you're in today?
Exactly.
It's awesome.
We've talked about it numerous times, how important training is, that check the block, go just get it done training. It just, the first time you might sink in a little bit, but a second, third, fourth time, people are just, like you said, just clicking through to get it over with.
Exactly.
So where do you see the kind of threat landscape going? I know that, like you mentioned, and we had Alec on a few weeks ago talking about infrastructure hacks. I think, that those are kind of a new thing, or at least we're hearing a little bit more about it. Where do you kind of see the threat landscape going?
So a couple of big ones to sort of talk through here. So if you talk about there are the attacks on infrastructure right now, which nation states have always seen that as this is a big one. And then criminal actors are also seeing that now. And sometimes in Russia, it's hard to tell if that's a criminal or a nation state actor. It gets a little murky there.
I'm sure there's a state actor with their fingerprint on something somewhere.
Yeah, it's murky. But so infrastructure has always been a big one. Production and manufacturing, especially with ransomware attacks, have been the past couple of years, they have been a heavily targeted industry. As far as the things I think might change the landscape, we're seeing a lot more. And sorry to talk slightly about politics adjacent here.
No. We're good. We're good.
Oh yeah. But you're starting to see people respond politically to this stuff. So you're more of the nation states calling each other out. I mean, it was something that we kind of did a little bit back when Mandiant released the APT-1 report back in, I want to say, 2013. Talking about, hey, like, this was the first big reports, like, China is targeting us. Here's the operation and everything else. Fantastic report. That started that way, but we haven't really had any big political, movements. And now, I think on Biden's last visit to Russia, they actually talked about this. So there might start becoming rules of engagement around this. Maybe not. I'm sure there's also still going to be those aren't our people. the Russians have done that on multiple occasions. Most notably, pretty much all of them, but like,
no.
I won't get into all of them, but yeah, that's that's one thing I think might start changing a little bit, is what countries are willing to do to each other. And if certain things get taken off the table, or if there's an actual retaliation against attacks on critical infrastructure or on healthcare.
Yeah.
On the criminal side, we've seen the move towards business models, and that's probably just going to keep growing. It'll become more corporate. People may have, in some places, they actually do have offices they go to, but it may keep growing in that sense. One of the things that I found interesting, and you talk about so there's that the cat and mouse game. So something gets hardened, you figure out the defense, and they go find something else. So one of the biggest attack methods over the last several years has been phishing emails. That's been a traditional way of getting in. And also over the last several years, protections along that have gotten a lot better. Heck, even if you're using G Suite nowadays, they do link analysis. I think they may even sandbox files. You get notified if a file's malicious. A lot of that stuff goes to your spam. And sometimes they do some language analysis to figure out if that's a phishing message or not. So even
one
if
of the
you've
easiest ways for me to figure it out is if I was like, this doesn't sound right, it got to be a phishing message.
Exactly. So even if you've got the most basic setup, you're just using Gmail, you've got decent, you've got some level of protection on your emails. But where you don't have protection is if you are in any of the collaboration or messaging apps. There's nothing there that's native, mainly because a lot of that stuff is considered internal, and we're starting to see a lot more attacks along those lines. Probably one of the more notable ones, and hits home if you happen to be a gamer or anything, was the recent breach of EA, where did you guys hear about that one?
No.
Okay. So what happened? So Electronic Arts got popped because a actor got a session cookie so that they could go into the company's corporate Slack environment and basically act as was a former employee, but a former legitimate employee. So they get in and they immediately find the IT department and say, hey, by the way, I lost my multi-factor authentication token for the main server. I lost my phone. I need to get some work done today. Can you guys send that to me again? Just drop it in here. And they did. And they then went, took that multi-factor authentication token, got into the main server, and they stole it was the graphics engine for the Battlefield games, which is huge, as well as the matchmaking algorithms for FIFA, which is also, like, as far as intellectual property goes, I mean, those are multi-billion-dollar franchises, and those are some of the keys of the kingdom for that stuff. So they are, they were able to basically waltz in and get that. And funny thing is, that session cookie that they bought off of an underground forum only cost $10.
Jeez.
And that's what I don't think people realize, how cheap your information is.
Oh, yeah.
We call it the dark web, the deep web, whatever you want to call it, but how cheap your information is out there, for a list of 100, it's not that much money.
Oh yeah. No, it's extremely cheap. Mainly because a lot of people aren't doing targeted attacks. They're doing like $10 for a session cookie. Actually, that's a fair bit, because normally these guys are wholesaling this stuff, and then they're just trying a lot of things at once. So it's not uncommon for things to be 10 for $1 type thing, just so you can see what you can get. But yeah.
Huh. Yeah. So before we go, I think we had a great conversation. I want you to talk a little bit about what Safeguard Cyber does, and how you whatever you want to talk about with them. So.
Sure. Yeah. No. So Safeguard Cyber, and it kind of goes into that last thing I was talking about, the collaboration applications. Whole reason I came over here is because that's we protect that human interaction level, and for the applications, that's things like Slack, Zoom, we get LinkedIn, we do stuff there. We do stuff on Facebook, WhatsApp. If you're using WeChat, God bless you, and we'll pray for you,
May
but
the
we can
odds
also help
forever
you
be in your
protect on that
favor.
as well. So we do things like file analysis, link analysis. We do message analysis, so the natural language processing, so we can detect those social engineering attacks that come through, as well as if you happen to if your account does get compromised and you all of a sudden start I log in, I log off, and then all of a sudden 10 minutes later I'm logging in from China. We can actually shut down accounts for some of those applications that way. So so we do a lot of protection in that gap, because there's really not much there. So we get to see some neat stuff, and it's a blast. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds cool. Anything you want to talk about that I didn't ask you any?
Not
All right.
not really. I guess I think we're pretty good. I don't know. What kind of whiskey you drink, man?
I usually drink single malt, like Irish or Scotch whiskey, depending on it. Kind of personal. I prefer bourbon, honestly, but he does the single malt Scottish whiskey, so that's kind of
nice.
It's nice. Yeah.
So there. I'm a Scotch guy myself.
Okay.
What's your go-to Scotch?
What is it? McClellan? No, I'm not even my brother-in-law drinks a lot of it. I'm not a huge Scotch. Is a little mossy for him. Peaty moss. I'm not a big fan of that whole flavor.
Okay.
Yeah, I stick with the the big ones, McClellan, and I can't even think of the name. The Irish whiskey.
So Macallan. Let's see. For Irish,
Jameson. Jameson, there you go.
There you go.
I've got like 3 bottles downstairs. Jeez, but I like the the Lead Slingers is kind of a cheap one. It's nice for whiskey. It's a whiskey. It's an American whiskey, but I prefer Blanton's. Basil Hayden's good. Stuff like that. So
nice, solid.
Jake's like, I don't drink any of that swill.
No, I literally, like, people give me bottles of alcohol, and some I really keep. So someone gave me a Redbreast.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
So I keep that here, keep that for special occasions. Literally, all the alcohol here is for when my buddies come over. So if you go out to my outdoor fridge, it's all local handcrafted beers and tequila from Mexico. When I travel, I think alcohol, I think it's fun to go to distilleries and watch how the process is done. I think it's a huge education. So when I lived in California in the restaurant industry, going to the wineries in Napa and watching them do it, down in Mexico going to the tequila factories, watching the process of making it and the history behind it, I think is awesome. Just the history behind alcohol, I think, is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm really a beer drinker, but I've started to kind of cross over into the liquor more. I just found a bottle of Jameson cold brew. Have you had that yet?
Ooh, no.
So it's like a coffee flavored Jameson. It's nice.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous.
It can be. It sits in my fridge in the morning. I look. I was like, man,
it doesn't have.
I can't do
it doesn't
that.
have caffeine in it, because that'd be a real bomb right there.
No, I don't think it does. I think it's
Okay,
just the flavor of the coffee, and it's like a cold brew. But yeah, it's good.
Cool.
In the morning coffee, that little Irish coffee, it just gives a little extra kick.
Yeah, that's good.
Storm, next time I'm up your way, man. Definitely get together, grab a drink.
It'd
be fun, man. I absolutely love this podcast. I love listening to your expertise and what you do and how you do it, what your company does. So, I think you did a really, really good job, and I appreciate you kind of breaking it down. For the listeners out there, when you say cybersecurity, a lot of people just, like, in my opinion, I used to tune it out, right? I'm like, nerds. But it's so, to me, it's so awesome. It's kind of like the new detective thing. So one thing I did want to ask before I hang it up, I get a lot of questions of, how do I get in the security industry? I get people asking, Chuck, who reached out last week, Chuck, thinking about the physical side. And I really admonish a lot of people, like, hey, look at the cyber side. Look at the cyber side. So if you could just, quick 2 minutes of kind of like, say someone, I don't know, thinking about it in college or high school, going through, or thinking of a second career later on in life, like, what are some tips and tricks that, looking back, that you wish you would have done, or, what's out there for you?
Yeah. So, so you're still in college, go take a computer science class of some sort. Even if it's just an elective, just to get yourself familiar with some of the more technical details. Because for myself, I'm not a technical guy. I generally don't go into the code and analyze malware. I've got a guy on my team who does, and he's awesome. But that at the very least that gets you closer to that. So if you're trying to go on to the cybersecurity intel side of things, quite honestly, your writing sample, as clear and as concise as you can make it, is going to be a big one, because cybersecurity, I mean, any intel you generally want to be clear and concise with, but cybersecurity, you can get that glazed over look a lot quicker. So the better you can demonstrate that, more power to you. Additionally, find people to talk to, reach out to folks, try to get an informational interview with someone. I've had tons of people reach out to me, through my university or through anything else, just saying, hey, I had a friend of a friend's nephew reach out to me the other day, just like, oh yeah, you do cybersecurity, right? I found out that from my uncle. Yeah, can you talk to me about that stuff? Yeah, and just get someone to talk to you about it, because you'll find that a lot of people have they generally want to share stuff. They want to talk to you about things, and then they'll also have tips as far as, okay, hey, by the way, I've heard this group is hiring, or this is a good company, get involved, to keep an eye out on that. And that's just that insider knowledge that you can get from some of these folks. And then also look for internships is the big one too. So I think FireEye still does one. I know Recorded Future, I think, does one. And those are good ways, because generally when those people hire interns, first off, half the time they pay them, which is great. And second, they're normally hiring interns to hire as full-time folks at the end of the day. So if I get to start an internship program here, that's definitely what I'm going to be doing. So that is a good way to get your foot in the door. And quite honestly, the market is so competitive in the sense of, people are competing, companies are competing for employees, that as soon as you can get your foot in the door, you're kind of set. There will always be somebody who will want to hire you fairly quickly.
Well, I want to say I read something, it's probably been a year now, but it was something like 40,000 openings in IT cybersecurity across just the US. So
yep. Yeah.
All right.
It's crazy.
Awesome. I appreciate it. We thank you for joining us on the show today. It was an awesome conversation, very informative. I really appreciate you coming on.
Cool. Yeah. And if you guys ever want me back, just let me know.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Great chat. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey,
all right, everybody, check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com, search the Coffee Squad Podcast, or go to coffeesquadpodcast.com to find all our content. Reach out. Let us know how we're doing. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Have a good one.